Hello and welcome to the Bpositive Bloodstream, a podcast providing insights, stories and experiences from and for all those affected by acute leukemia and beyond. My name is John Joe Rooney and I'm the founder of Bpositive and the host of the Bloodstream. So why a podcast? Well, the one thing I lacked when I was diagnosed with leukemia back in 2006 was hearing from people who knew what it was like to embark on a similar journey to myself. It's my hope that by sharing inspiring interviews from people who've either been affected firsthand in some way by blood cancer or who've had similar experiences that others can resonate with, then we can help support those in need. I want these podcasts to provide help, inspiration and belief to all people. Bpositive is both my blood group and my adopted mantra that I held throughout my treatment. I hope you enjoy our interviews, and if you wish to get in touch with us, then please do so by emailing us at info@bpositive.org.uk, or you can find us on Twitter at b_positive_org. In this episode, we hear from Lynda Thomas, the CEO of Macmillan Cancer Support. Having worked at Macmillan for nearly 3 years now, I've seen firsthand how the person in charge of leading this organisation is a very warm, a very positive and extremely driven individual who's not only responsible for having helped get Macmillan to the top of its sector, but more importantly, ensuring that it stays there. I caught up with Lynda in her head office in London, overlooking the Thames, and wanted to unearth more about her views on what she deems is important for cancer patients and how she's continuing to drive Macmillan forward and help those in need. I hope you enjoy. Hello and thanks for joining us on the Bpositive Bloodstream. I'm absolutely delighted to be sat here with Lynda Thomas, the CEO of Macmillan Cancer Support. Lynda, thank you for taking the time out of your incredibly busy and I'm sure hectic schedule to spend some time with us. I know your time's very valuable, so I really appreciate it. Once again in this episode, we hear about the other side of the world of cancer. You may remember we spoke to Adele Fielding in a previous episode, and this time we're going to speak to Lynda, who leads Macmillan. Now, we only usually see organisations for what we're fed through social media or their own experiences from people, so it's great, I feel, for us to uncover from the very important people who are responsible for leading the charity, and also we can hear in their own words how they see the world of cancer. So, hello Lynda, thanks for joining me.
Hello John Joe, thanks for having me.
No problem. I've got a list of sort of notes and things that I'll roughly try and keep to, but generally jump in and sort of do whatever you need to do, and this is just to give a little bit of structure. I suppose kicking off, Macmillan, I know, because for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a design manager at Macmillan, so I know this company very well and I'm very proud to work here. One of the myths that I think Macmillan have worked hard to change was the association of being there for people at the end of life, where Macmillan do so much more for that. And I suppose what I'm interested in is just gauging your thoughts on how being relevant for patients at all stages of their cancer experience and the different times of need is important for Macmillan.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing for us at Macmillan really is making sure that whatever we do, we're there for people when they need us the most in the ways that they need us. And we know from our conversations with patients that there's 2 points, and that is when somebody has a cancer diagnosis. That is probably the most scary part of anybody's journey, actually, and people feel completely out of control. And the second time of need that people really need us is if their cancer comes back and it's incurable.
Of course.
Because obviously that then means that you have to have a very different outlook on your life and what's going to happen to the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk to people about, are we there for you? I think we expected to be there more for people at those times. And people were saying it's a little bit hit and miss. So, we are just in the middle of unveiling our new 5-year vision, which really is to make sure that at the time that somebody's diagnosed with cancer, not only is Macmillan introduced to them, but that patient believes that we are relevant to them and that we're relevant to them in a number of different ways. Because obviously loads of people know about our amazing Macmillan nurses, but we do an awful lot more than nurses, and we have a whole range of services. So for example, if you're struggling with work or you're struggling with finances, we can help you with that. And the last thing I really want is for somebody further down their cancer journey to come to us and say, I wish I'd known you did that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really about making sure that at that point we're really relevant to people and they know the support they can get from Macmillan.
I think that's really important. If I touch on my own experience, as I generally tried to do, some charities are specific to a disease. So leukemia was, I was given information booklets from that company, and I don't think I learnt about Macmillan until some way down the line when I was in discussions about statutory sick pay and all these different things where they became really quite valuable. For my mum, not so much for me, I didn't feel I could take that on. I was 23 at the time, I suppose, so mum could help handle with those things. But I think it's really, I was really pleased and proud to hear that being there, being more relevant, more of a presence at all different stages of treatment is an approach Macmillan taken, and I think that's I think that can only help benefit the patient and the brand, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, moving on to yourself. I've always observed that I think you're very personable. I see you walking around the office. I have to admit that I was getting on the train at Highbury in Islington, and we were kept outside, and I could see you ahead of me. Well, I'm sure it was you, in case you've never been there.
No, I live in Highbury.
Oh right, well it would have been you. And I thought, oh, there's the owner. And I think I'm quite personal, but I didn't come up. I didn't say hello, and I guess I thought I didn't really want to interrupt. Everyone's in a commute. It's London. Everyone just wants to get to work. But beyond that, and having met you and been in meetings of various things and seen you around the office, you're absolutely the opposite of that. And you've even said not enough people do come up to you and stuff. But your whole persona, I think, is so non-corporate, non-businessy, yet you must have to be corporate and strategic and have your business head on. Of course, in the role you're doing. Is it intended that the way you carry yourself is a reflection on Macmillan? Because I think Macmillan is personable, friendly, warm, and you clearly are. And I think Macmillan is a personable charity. Is that a coincidence, or obviously Macmillan existed before yourself? But is that an informed sort of decision that you carry that forward with, as well as the values of the brand?
I think it is a happy coincidence, to be perfectly honest with you, and I do think Macmillan is full of people like me, actually, who are genuinely interested in people, because we are in a people business. So I think there are times when you need to be really corporate. When I am managing financial frameworks and budgets and performance management and recruiting people, I think I take a very analytical and business-minded approach to it. When I'm looking at things like which fundraising products work and everything like that, I do less of that now, obviously, but in my previous jobs, being business-minded is really, really important. But as far as the people stuff goes, I think it's authenticity is the most important thing. So I can completely understand why you might have thought you can't approach me on Highbury and Islington Station, but believe you me, you can approach me on Highbury and Islington Station. Actually, I actively seek those sorts of things out, you know, so just to give you a couple of examples, some of my best conversations happen in the changing room on the 17th floor at Macmillan when I'm getting ready to, you know, if I come in on my bike or something. If it's somebody from Macmillan, it's a great opportunity to have just like a bit of a temperature check about what that person's doing and things like that. And I love that, coming up in the stairs, walking up in the stairs, if I meet someone, I mean, God, they must be knackered by the time they get to the top floor. Because,
I just take the lifts, I can't walk.
Because they're like, and I'm asking them questions all the way up, because genuinely I'm really interested in how people are doing. And another example, I was on my way to Blackpool last week for the Macmillan Volunteers Conference. At Preston, a man bounced up to me called Hayes with a bunch of flowers in his arm and a massive Macmillan t-shirt on to say, oh my God, it's so brilliant to meet you and it's so great. And then I spent the rest of the journey travelling with them rather than my Macmillan colleagues, because it's so lovely to get out and about and meet people. I don't think I do enough of it, because sometimes, you know, I can be away for weeks on end with work,
I'm sure,
or in meetings all day. So I think you've really got to grab your chances on that. And
absolutely.
As much as you might be thinking she's not approachable, there are times when I come up and I see you all behind your Macs and I think, there's really creative people there. I can't go and talk to them.
I was disappointed with myself, because I'm not phased or intimidated by any of that.
I can see that.
But then I think quite soon after, a great thing Macmillan do when I'd recently joined and you get invited to a sit down chat with you when it's your birthday. I think that's great. So in the month of whatever birthday it is, people who don't know, staff get invited to sit with you. And that's when I really started learning. And it was in that meeting you said basically what you just said now, and I thought, kicked myself thinking, I let myself down with that really. Well. But it's but I think it's great to see, and actually I think other people probably take inspiration from that. And we all say at Macmillan how you should best carry the values of the brand forward. And I think you live and breathe that when you walk into an advert. I mean,
another little story just about a member of staff actually. Once there was a woman called Kim travelling home from work. She worked in our challenge team, and there was a lady sitting opposite her on the tube who was in floods of tears.
Oh, wow.
So Kim went over and asked her what had happened, and this lady had literally just had a breast cancer diagnosis. And Kim, our member of staff, got off the station train with this lady at the station, took her home and waited for her boyfriend to arrive before she left. She never said anything to anybody about it, but the woman who was the lady who had just been diagnosed with cancer, got in touch with Macmillan and said, I just want to tell you about this amazing, and we tracked her down basically, and we embarrassed her hugely. But I just think, well, that's how we all should be, shouldn't we, actually? It's not just me, it's about everybody working for the charity. We're about people, and when people need us, we have to make sure we're there for them.
And not just in the office hours, clearly when you're out and about.
Well, you must find that if you go to parties and things like that and people ask you where you work, you don't just switch off being a brand ambassador.
No. And actually, on the takeover day where everyone goes out around the offices wherever they're based in the UK. So we go out in London. I was at Covent Garden, and we were there with a bucket and all branded up and looked great. And I remember a guy coming up. Now, generally we're in a tourist spot, so we thought, well, you know, probably not hitting our audience here. But people were so receptive to it, asking questions about it. It's a chance to educate people. Yeah. But I remember one guy came up and he had a note, and if someone's got a note, you give them attention, because then it was throwing loose change in. And he said, and he didn't want any attention. He said, I just want to give you this. Macmillan helped my dad so much, and that means so much. And we chatted and engaged. I absolutely believe that people who work here represent the brand, and that is outside the office as well. And that's a great story on the tube. It just shows that also, because cancer doesn't go away, people's experiences don't. I also wanted to touch on my own experience, I suppose, in that when I was diagnosed, often when you're the patient, I've often said when I'm giving talks and stuff that for some point it can feel easier being a patient than someone looking in, because I felt I had a semblance of control over my illness just by being informed and being the one going through it. That probably isn't the same for everyone. I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of everyone, but I knew my mum took that diagnosis home with me the day I did, and my mum worries if I lost a pair of socks, let alone you know, taking the diagnosis for leukemia, where you know you've got 2 years of treatment and whatnot. But Macmillan is there for other people, and I suppose I'd like to ask you in your own words what you would say to those close family and friends who are also affected and struggling with a diagnosis.
Well, I think that's, you've hit on a really important point here, actually. A patient does not live in isolation, and thank goodness they don't, actually. So I think the wonderful thing about Macmillan is that we look after the whole family, and not just the family, but people's friends. And people can get involved in a variety of ways, I think, with patients' care, and it all depends on what the individual wants and what the circumstances are. But I love the fact that all of our Macmillan professionals will be looking after the family, and they'll be taking into account who is around this patient, and therefore what support do I need. And you know, I'm thinking about a really amazing video that I show all the time about a young man called Dean in North Manchester, who's got a life-shortening cancer, but he's actually a young person, and at the beginning he was very, very ill, and now we've just got him back to the point where he just got married and going back to work. And a huge part of that work has been working with Sophie, his wife, now wife, then girlfriend. Because actually Dean was relying on her for everything, so if we don't work with Sophie, then Dean can't get the support he needs as well. So I think that for me the most exciting bit really is making sure that we remember patients don't live on an island. They have an infrastructure around them. Some people, you know, they don't want much from us, but they want to be able to know they can get into us if they need us. And other people need absolutely everything for us. And what I like about Macmillan, I think, is that we are good at understanding what people need on an individual basis. And it's absolutely true. It can't be viewed in isolation. When I'm asked, as I often am, about my treatment and my experience, I knew I had the support and a big army of friends and family that helps more than you can actually probably anticipate. Because invariably there's ups and downs, and some massive downs and some lows, where you rely on that support network. But actually, and something I always remember is all the focus on me when I was getting diagnosed. No thought was given to my family, my brother, my sister, my mum, who went away from that day. My mum, I was the only one who lived with her. I wonder who, you know, the family rallied round. But actually, in those nights when I was in hospital, were almost, dare I say, used to me being ill, they're the times where they need support and stuff, and I think it's fantastic that Macmillan do that. We have carers groups as well, which I think. I mean, I remember when my daughter was ill with a mental health issue, not cancer. Speaking to other people who are in a similar situation was invaluable, because you do feel quite lonely. Of course it is, And for your mum, she's not expecting a strapping 23-year-old to have leukemia, and she's not and the parent, her infrastructure, her network of other mums or other people she talks to with 23-year-olds are probably not going through anything like that at all. And sometimes you just want to speak to somebody who's been through it or is going through it, who can say, I know how you feel. Absolutely. And I would use the analogy of something like Mumsnet, for example. It's brilliant when you've had a baby and you'll feel like your world's completely crashed around you. And it's exactly the same here. So that's why I think some of our services, like the online community, for example, just offer people completely different experiences. And as a carer, you can go on there and find like-minded people. So I am so pro looking after carers and other people is really important.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And that absolutely echoes what we do at Bpositive. What we certainly try and do is put people in touch with people who have experienced it, and whether that's a carer, a nurse, you know, I mean, Adele Fielding, who spoke on one of our recent podcasts, she absolutely identified the fact that it's important. Everyone's human, and everyone resonates with an illness, and it's important to have that network around you. Okay, I've got quite a generic question here about what keeps you inspired and motivated to keep Macmillan at the top of its sector. Now, I was finding being at the top of the sector it's probably like getting to the top of the Premier League. I wouldn't ever know what that feels like, but one day I might feel it. But getting up there is one thing, but staying up there must be so much harder.
Yeah.
So I wonder what keeps you motivated and inspired, I suppose, working here.
Oh, totally. Well, for me, it's all about the people, no question about it. So if ever I'm having a down day, or if ever I'm spending a day in a budget meeting, right, because numbers are not my thing necessarily, the way I can feel inspired is I just remind myself of the cause. So, for example, the Volunteers Conference last week, we had the awards, not a dry eye in the house. You get the long service award to the man whose daughter died of cervical cancer, living in Wales, who's raised hundreds of thousands of pounds for Macmillan. Every day, I see him on my Facebook page, every day he's out there fundraising for us. So it makes my job feel like particularly easy compared to what people are going through. Or I spend time with Macmillan professionals. When I meet our teams out there, and I went to Leeds recently and did some work with the head and neck cancer team. Unbelievable work they're doing with people who might not have half a face, right? Can you imagine not having half a face? People who may never ever be able to eat and drink in public again. Those are fairly basic things.
Absolutely things you take for granted.
Totally. Yeah. And they are these young people, they were really young people, they were amazing, just basically saying, I am going to make this patient's life as good as it possibly can be. And they had people who were going out to the pub and somehow managing to drink a pint of beer, which is a great thing, let's be really honest, because it makes you feel normal again. So I think it all comes back to that. If I'm ever not able to get out, I get straight on the Macmillan YouTube channel, right?
Wow, yeah.
Because there's some amazing videos on there. And again, you can find out so much. And then you just think, I really don't need to worry about anything at all.
Perspective, I suppose,
completely.
And rewarding for your
completely,
work.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned there, I wrote it down, feeling normal. It's amazing how I think the feeling of just being normal can be taken for granted. And when I was going through my diagnosis, all I wanted was to go back to a job I probably didn't like, or to moan about things that I was moaning about. You want to go back to that place, and I think it's underestimated how much people value being normal. And simple things like going for a pint, or being able to eat and drink. Things like that you wouldn't even dream of. So it's I imagine that must, in those dry sort of meetings that you have to be in.
And they do happen.
And they do, I bet they do.
No, it all comes back to that. And that's why I'm also hugely excited about the brand work that we're doing as well at the moment, and it's really putting us into the forefront of helping people live their lives.
Yes.
Whatever your goals are, we need to be able to help you achieve those goals.
And it also goes by being there for everyone at every step of the way.
Definitely.
An area of the cancer world I feel that's possibly a bit lacking is maybe across the UK is aftercare. I feel, and maybe I'm speaking more from experience.
No,
really,
a lot of people say that.
That's interesting. I've heard a couple of people in my world say that, but I've certainly felt that. Now, what I was most impressed with, certainly very impressed with, when I joined Macmillan nearly 3 years ago, was the move more, the physical activity campaigns that I think are absolutely excellent. And I just wanted to reference a patient who got in touch with us a short while back, who totally inspired me. Her name was Alex, and she was staying active throughout her treatment. She said, my life doesn't stop because I'm having treatment. I love running, I'm going to do that. Obviously, when you're embarking on chemo and things, it slows you down. But I was inspired because when I was being treated, I played the role of a patient. I wasn't told I could do this and that. So I was kind of feeling like I'm not allowed to get out of the bed here because no one's telling me I can.
Yeah.
And aftercare, and when I was being treated, I kind of waited until I was given the green light to do anything, rather than perhaps start doing things myself. Now, walking a dog could be a marathon to someone. There's a massive sort of dichotomy of what that could mean to someone. But I suppose, and I know yourself, you're very active. You love running. In fact, I was cheering you on at the marathon.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Don't know if you remember it, mile 23, I gave you a big shout.
Oh, I do. I remember. Well, there was a whole load of people. I remember actually. So thanks for that.
No, well done. But I know you're a keen runner, and so I suppose the question really is, how important do you feel it is to stay active throughout, and more importantly, beyond your treatment, and what are the benefits in doing so, and obviously the way that Macmillan helps support that as well?
Well, exercise is a wonder drug, there's no question about it, and I think in some instances it's been proven to be as clinically effective as chemotherapy for some circumstances, so it is amazing.
Brilliant.
I guess I'd go back to what works for people. I am uber fit, you are probably the same. I love doing things like that. I wouldn't advocate everybody needs to run a marathon, but I do think it's important to stay doing the things that you really enjoy. And I'm thinking about a couple of members of staff who are off, unfortunately, with cancer that isn't going to get better, but they're living lives with it. And one of them does an art class and the other one does yoga. Right. And I think it doesn't matter what you do. I think you have to find the thing that you want to do that
find your best way through it. Yeah,
there's no question about that. Yeah,
fantastic. My last question is something we like to ask to anyone who sort of comes across Macmillan, and it's what makes you be positive. I suppose what makes you be happy, really.
What makes me personally be happy? Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm lucky actually because I've got a great job. Husband I've been married to for 27 years and 3 really great kids actually, so I'm really lucky like that. So spending time doing things with them is really important.
Right.
If ever I'm really down in the dumps, I tend to get on my bike or go for a run or go for a walk, you know. And I'm a massive nature person. I love, give me a mountain, right? And I'm up it, I love it.
A mighty hike maybe.
Oh, I'd love to do a mighty hike. But I did the Thames Towpath Challenge a couple of years ago, 100 kilometres in 24 hours. That was tough, actually.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just things like that, really. Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes you can just be having a glass of wine.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't always have to be something that you physically exert yourself.
No, not at all.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lynda. That was really good.
You are so welcome.
I really
Good luck
appreciate
with
your time.
all your work. It's
Thank you very much. Thank you.